that we used to have. And got it. And they seem to get jobs that way. A lot of my clients do. It's a networking tool, has over 875 million subscribers. And I don't know if most of you know that networking, 87% of you will get jobs through networking. So networking is key. Many of my clients that I have, they're just on the job boards, and those are low percentage. Most of my executive clients will probably never get a job from a job board. So they need to network into companies, and we'll go through all that in some of my slides. And again, most hiring managers and recruiters use LinkedIn to source their candidates. So this is too important not to have a good LinkedIn profile. And you should have at least 500 or more connections. And I get this question all the time: who should be in my network? And I believe that, you know, most people say, hey, Ted, I just want my friends or my good friends. No, you should get a lot of people in there, a lot of other people. For example, all of these people on the phone right now, you should all be connected to. I think that would help you out, and connections always help you. Next page, please, John. So job search, obviously LinkedIn has job search capability. You can create job alerts. So if you're an engineer or a finance guy or a finance lady, you can search areas, you can search job titles. And then LinkedIn, if you create an alert, it'll tell you when new jobs come up. You can obviously find people, friends from school, work, associates. People had many times just cards, but LinkedIn keeps everybody current as far as their contact information and what they're doing. Let's see, joining groups and associations. I think you should all join about 30 to 50 groups, because now you can get into discussions. Maybe you're a subject matter expert, and a lot of the groups, they give you their people, all of their names, so you could reach out to them. And a lot of groups have jobs. So, and then you can visit. I have another slide on groups, so we'll talk about that more. You also need to create your own unique URL. LinkedIn, when you first get on, it gives you your name, www.linkedin.com/in/Ted, and a big long number. Well, you're not a big long number. You want your name in there if you can. If you have a common name, like Greg Johnson, there's probably a lot of Greg Johnsons out in the world. So you might need to make that a little bit more unique, maybe a middle name or a middle initial. And we'll talk a little bit about free versus premium. A long time ago, LinkedIn, most people could use the free one at will. But my suggestion is LinkedIn gives you 30 days, and you should look at that, at least get that 30 days. And I'll talk about neat things that the premium gives you later, but that's something you can try. And then if you don't want to pay that $390 or $39.99 a month, you can always get out of it if it's not helping you. But it does give you in-mail, it does give you better search capability, and then the Learning Center has a lot of classes for you. So I think that's important. Next page, please. I am going fairly fast, but I have a lot of slides to get you through here. Picture, now some of these I'll have backup slides in a minute that you'll see. A picture you must have. Make sure that it's a good picture. I'll go through that in a second. A background, LinkedIn's been having a background now that you can put up. I think that's nice to have. And I'll talk about that later a little bit more, because now you can have a background that has to do with your industry or service, or maybe something that you do or saying that you like. So it's good to have that, I believe. Headline, your job title, I like, industry, maybe a tagline, and kind of what differentiates you. We'll talk more on headline in a while, because I think that is so important. Your about box. Your about box, I think, or your summary box, I believe is your time to shine. This is what's maybe really different from your resume, which has skills and experiences. But LinkedIn summary box, I think you can put in not only skills, experience, expertise, but I think value. And what TED is all about here is value with my clients. I've been blessed to have helped many thousands of people all over the world. And it all comes up, I think, to value. And we'll go through that when I give you examples of an about box with people that I've helped. So I think you'll like that. I like to create a wow factor. So when you read, look at somebody's about box, a lot of people have maybe a little paragraph or block text, which is really hard to read sometimes. But I like a little white space in there. And I like it when it just pops. You go, wow, we need to bring this person in right now. We'll talk about that later. A skills section. I think this is an area, obviously, of keywords. We'll talk about keywords a few lines down, but you'll need to get some endorsements. People can just put in plus signs, go to your profile and just hit the plus by you, and that gives you an endorsement for that skill. And those skills are also keyworded, and we'll talk more on that. Your experience section, similar, akin to your resume, and that is, I want you to still have good PAR statements, and those are problem, action, results. And many people in their resume on LinkedIn, they talk about the problem and the action, but they don't give the results. And I love to see results. And most hiring managers and recruiters love to see those results also. Recommendations, I think that's a key thing. You need to have between 4 and 8. And not just something that says, oh, Enrique was a nice guy, or Fernando, you know, he does his work really well. I want something with meat in it, to say, hey, how he was at work, how he was with clients, how he was with his staff, and the things, you know, problem solving. You can talk a lot about that in the recommendations. So when you ask for a recommendation, be sure to give the people you ask, hey, here's some talking points that I'd like you to say about me. And then that helps them write it, and then it helps make you look better in the recommendation. Your status update, I think this is an important thing, and that raises your brand. And it's the home page on LinkedIn. So at the top left is home page, and there you can post articles, blogs, you can write things, you can comment, repost from others. And I think that updates your brand, and it gives you more status. People look at that. I even have my clients say, hey, open to opportunities. So it's a passive type thing. It doesn't always stay on the screen, but a lot of people do that, and I've seen people get jobs from that. Keywords and SEO. That's basically how people find you. And I have a whole slide on keywords and search engine optimization, because that's what makes LinkedIn fly. And that's how recruiters, hiring managers, executive companies across the nation find people. Next slide, John. Thank you. Now, here, I want to talk a little bit about a headshot picture and background. I'm using Christy. She allowed me to use it. I think this is a great picture. It shows the elements that I like. And those elements are, it's natural, it's simple. Her background is plain, it's not cluttered. Many of my clients have had their motorcycle or their car or their dogs in the picture. We don't want that. You want to look natural, relaxed. Watch the glasses if you're wearing glasses, because those will get a glare sometimes. And maybe just not a quick selfie. I've seen some good quality selfies, but make sure you have a good picture of yourself, shoulder height. And I think Christy has a great picture here that shows those elements. And avoid blurry, low quality, and keep your eyes open and lively. Now, background images. I love these background images because it kind of shows your brand. You can talk about, your industry, your product, service that you've done. It shows you care. And in my case here, I do a lot of out in Arizona. I've done it before COVID hit. I've done a lot of public speaking at the colleges and classes. And this is one, I think it's a night class at one of the universities out here. And my wife happened to take this picture, but it shows kind of what I do. Now, these background images, if you go to Google, you can call up LinkedIn background images, and they give a whole assortment of different industries, different background images that will fit into the LinkedIn image category. So I think these are kind of cool, to tell you the truth. You can get words in there. Some of my clients have slogans. They have different logos that they care about, but I think it's a neat thing to have. Next page, please. Your headline. Okay, we mentioned that before, but it allows you about 220 characters. Use them. In your headline, I think you can talk about your strongest qualifications, achievements, maybe some of the, if you have your PMP or Agile Scrum, you can talk about that, your job titles. A lot of people put in there also, and I've seen this just recently, open to work or looking for a job or something like that. That's not who you are. Who you are is really job titles. Now, what I wouldn't want to see in this headline is 6 or 8 different titles. I've seen where people have maybe they're a vice president of finance or marketing. Then they go, oh, I can be vice president, I can be director, I can be supervisor, I can be product manager. And all of a sudden they have all of these titles in there. And so it gets confusing to the reader, if you would. What does this person want? He's been a vice president for years. Now he wants to be a product manager. Not likely. So those keywords, sometimes depending on the company, you might be a vice president at a smaller company, but maybe at a larger, maybe you fit in a senior director level. So those are okay. And then if you specialize in a certain field or industry, you might want to talk about that a little bit in the headline. And here's a couple of example headlines. I use Christie's because it talks about managing director and CEO of Platinum. That's good. Interim staffing, professional services, so that you can see what her company does here. Mine is, LinkedIn coach, keynote speaker, job search coach, instructor. I love to have a tagline. Connections are good, but relationships are gold. And then, dedicated to raising your brand and visibility. And another example that I've picked out is graphics designer, graphics illustrator, digital animator. And you can see the 3 different things, but they're all related to maybe a single job. And then he says, hey, if you want to let's make everything look great. I think that's very neat. And then it says, hey, my portfolio's in the profile, so you can look for that in there. So your headline, I think, is very important. And it shows up if you visit other people's profiles. LinkedIn will leave cookies behind, and they'll leave your headline sometimes behind on that. So next page, John. Your summary box. I think this is probably one of the most important areas that I think in LinkedIn. It allows you to about 2,600 characters. I don't like block text. I like a little white space, make it easy to read. I have an example next. Keywords, highlights, you want to put the keywords in there, your skills, maybe even some of your soft skills, maybe your ability to connect with people, how you problem solve, and things like that. And then major accomplishments. I love to have 3 or 4 major accomplishments throughout your career. And then value proposition. Most of you that know me for a long time know that I am huge on value. And basically, when you go for interviews, you get the interviews because of your experience and because of your skills, but you get the job because of your value proposition. And that value proposition, I think, is very, very important. And if you are here today listening to me and you don't know what your value propositions are, how do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself from other people doing your job? You need to sit down and figure that out. Put that into LinkedIn, and also you take that to the interview. So when you're interviewing, I know this is a LinkedIn discussion, but I'm here to help people get jobs. And when you're at the interview and they ask you, why should we hire you? We have 10 people in the lobby. Why should we hire you? You know, said these are the reasons. And the reasons could be, hey, I'm a customer advocate, great problem solver. I'm very technology oriented. I love to speak in front of clients. I have clients in China, or I'm sorry, Japan or Europe. I can help overseas clients. So value, I think, is important. You need to list your values. Sit down and put those down on paper so you know those. And then this area is your personal branding. This is where your branding starts in the summary box. Next page, please. Okay, this is an example of a person that came to me in Arizona here. Fortunately, I've had many thousands of people come to me and want jobs, but Ted Trimbath was kind of neat. He allowed me to show some of his information here. But in the about box, he's got his name, his job titles, his contact information, his cell phone. And I always like a lead-on sentence. So lead-on sentence is, hey, are you seeking a general manager that can increase your revenues and build culture? The answer is yes. Hey, allow me to help you. Now, if you're in a confidential search, you might not want to say that. And a confidential search is maybe you're working, but you're looking for a job on the side. So you don't want to have your LinkedIn profile talking about you searching for a job. That would be akin to you leaving your resume on the company copier. Hey, Bob, you've left your resume here. Are you looking for a job? And so you don't want that. But for somebody that's looking for a job, I always love a LinkedIn or a question that says, hey, here's what I specialize in. Hey, if I can help you, allow me. Then it goes through some experiences, keywords. Now, I have equipped with over 25 years. I was just talking to one of my friends yesterday. I won't mention his name, but he wanted to, hey, Ted, can I take out that 25 years or 20 years plus? It's kind of aging me. And I said, sure, you can say seasoned or anything like that. Seasoned general manager, food, beverage. Those are keywords that go along with somebody that's a general manager at a hotel. And then some of his attributes, his soft skills are, establishing lasting relationships and customer service. And here's some of Ted's major accomplishments. And those are nice. 3 or 4 is nice in the summary. And then value. And I think Ted's tagline that I came up for him was building a culture of customer service. And that was a great tagline for Ted. And he's known for his solution mindset. He matches activities and desired results and confidence. he's a change manager. So a lot of you, if you're going into upper management or vice president or senior director, being a change manager is good because you're probably going to be asked to do some changes. So I think that's good. And Ted, when I spoke to him and we pulled out his value, he wanted to understand the why we need to change is critical. And then he enjoyed coaching and mentoring his staff. And I think that was really good. And him building a culture-rich environment where morale is high and creativity is reported. I think this is a nice about box that encapsulated who Ted was. And it gives him, I think it's a wow factor, to be quite honest with you. So let me make sure my time is good. Next page, please. Okay, keywords. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about keywords on LinkedIn. SEO, search engine optimization, again, that's how you're found. That's how people search for you. And it's used by, again, recruiters, managers, search companies out there. Keywords are definitely in your job titles, maybe hard skills, soft skills, and location. I think after COVID, location isn't necessarily as important because a lot of jobs now, maybe you're in California, but the company headquarters is in New York. But you can maybe still do remote. Maybe every once in a while you travel to New York to see the teams. But a lot of remote positions, or hybrid, we call them now, where you're part-time remote, part-time at the company. I see a lot of that. Companies also, now keywords are found in your headline, your about box, your summary, your experience section, your skills section, and recommendations. So these are all keywords that pop up when people do searches for you. Companies also run, believe it or not, this applicant tracking system. Now, most people use it. Most companies have this program and looking at resumes when they come in. And so many people fail these applicant tracking programs because of the style of resume that they have. But your LinkedIn profile can also be ran through the applicant tracking system. So if you're applying a job, maybe on LinkedIn, applying for a job, you need to look at that job rec and make sure those keywords are in your profile, whether it be in the skills section, experience section, or whatever section of LinkedIn. Make sure those skills are in there. So when they run that ATS system, that your algorithm is high. I think I'll talk about JobScan in a minute, but I think that they want you in the 80s. I've found that if you're over 70s, that's still good. If you're 60s or 50s or 40, that means you're doing something wrong, or maybe you're not qualified for that job. So keywords are important. In your profile, you can also include specialties, maybe PMP, Agile, Scrum, or maybe you have Six Sigma Lean, Green Belt, Black Belt, whatever. These are important things you put in your LinkedIn profile. And again, I mentioned JobScan here. That's a program that's an automatic program that gives you a feel to how an ATS system might work. So you can go to JobScan, upload your resume, and then cut and paste your job rec. You can do that for your resume, and you can certainly run your LinkedIn profile through that, and people do, and that will give you a score. And that way, if your score is low, you'll never have a human look at that profile. Now, I'm not big on job boards necessarily because I think the odds are low, but what I'm for is breaking into companies, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But JobScan is an interesting program. I think you'll enjoy it. It'll tell you where you lack keywords. Next page, please. Okay, groups and associations. I think, again, that you should belong to about 30 to 50 groups. And the reasons to join these groups may be a target market, maybe you're in finance, maybe you're in insurance, maybe you're an engineer, you may have personal interests. I know I do magic on the side, so I belong, when I was in California, the Magic Castle, and I joined their group. And then professional associations. As an engineer, I was in IEEE. I was in PMI of Orange County, Project Management Institute. And what I liked about that is that I can attend meetings, something like you guys are now doing for Platinum Resources in the boot camp. I think that this allows you to meet people. I went to meetings for PMI because now I would go to lunch meetings, I would go to dinner meetings. And so now I'm swimming in a pond with like-minded people, project managers. And so guess where project managers go to on Monday? To work. I mean, I was assuming that, hey, if they hired one project manager, they might hire more. So making acquaintances and friends and be able to talk to people, network with people, that only helps you. And I know many people that have gotten jobs from joining groups. Because groups, you can just have discussions. You might be a subject matter expert, attend local meetings, like I said, and you get the membership list. Oh my gosh, that could help you immensely. Obviously, you belong to Platinum Resources, but you can also belong to Saddleback Coaching Ministry. And Greg is there helping out with LinkedIn. And I think Wayne hopefully is still there. And so they offer a great program. I worked there for 5 years in the ministry. I loved it. And I'm sure that Greg loves it there. And there's other groups in the Orange County area. Those of you who are in Orange County, Laguna Niguel Connectors is a good one. There used to be so many, Cafe Net, but those, I think Cindy left. And there used to be Mark James had ExecuNet, but a lot of those are now gone. So, but I think joining groups and with like-minded people help you. Next slide, please. Okay, the hidden job market. Now, I have here keys to the castle. And why I say that is I'm going to give you some hints here that I think I have gotten jobs from, many of my clients have. And that is the hidden job market. It accounts for 80% of the jobs out there. That means that there's 80% hidden from you. Well, wait a minute, Ted, does that mean that the 20% that I see on the job boards, that's all there is? Yep. And so what I think you ought to do is create a company target list, and not just 1 or 2, get 30 or 50 on there. And then I want you to build relationships at those target companies, and then get first degrees in those companies. And therefore you can talk to them. And let me give you an example here. So for example, I'll use my good friend, Fernando. And Fernando, let's say, works for Boeing. And let's say Fernando, and I want a project manager job from Boeing. Well, I see that my good friend Fernando works there. So I call him up. I'm a first degree with him. And I say, Fernando, hey, how's it like at Boeing? What's the core values there? What's the culture like? How'd you get your job? So, and then I'll finally get into, hey, do you know the hiring manager for project managers? And Fernando may or may not. If he doesn't, he's on the good side of the firewall. So he can definitely look that up. And then he can say, hey, Ted, why don't you send me your resume and your cover letter, and I'll put my name on it. And if you get a job, I get a referral bonus maybe of thousands of dollars, and you get a job. Win-win situation. How could we ever beat that? Now, let's go another example for a second degree. So let's say that Tom, who I know is on the line or on the group here, let's say Tom is a second degree, and I see he's working at Northrop Grumman, and that's a company I want to get into. But if I just called Tom and talked to him, he doesn't know me. So let's say he knows Fernando. And so Fernando, I call Fernando and say, hey, Fernando, I see that Tom works for Northrop Grumman. That's a target company of mine. Can you make an introduction for me? And so Fernando calls Tom, says, hey, I have a friend, Ted. Can you spend a few minutes, talk to him about Northrop Grumman? So I eventually talk to Tom and I say, Tom, thanks for taking my call. What's it like at Northrop Grumman? What's, culture? How'd you get your job? And you don't ask Tom for a job and you don't say, oh, I want to talk to the recruiting agent. You want to talk to the hiring manager. So you ask Tom, can you pass my resume maybe to the hiring manager if you know that person? And if you don't, maybe you can look it up and put your name on my resume and cover letter. And that way, if I get a job, you get maybe a referral bonus of thousands of dollars, I get a job. And oh, by the way, Tom, let's be first degrees. Let's connect on LinkedIn. And therefore now I have a first degree at one of my target companies, Northrop Grumman. So this technique that I just taught you here is a technique that many of my clients have gotten jobs. I personally have. And so this is keys to the castle. I like to follow my target companies. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, Ted, how do you find target companies? Obviously, the job boards have target companies on them. Those are companies that are hiring and that. But one of the things I use is the Business Journal. Out here in Phoenix, I have a big copy of this. It's a large book, a large pamphlet. It's also at the library. So you can go to the library and say, hey, do you have a book of lists for Orange County or LA, Southern California? And what the book of lists has is the top 25 companies in every industry. So, and that's, each page has 25 companies and they have line items that tell you about that company, their executives, their address, and that whole barnyard of information. So that's a good source for you. The other thing is a thing that I love. It's called Reference USA. And that's at the library also. And most county and city libraries have Reference USA. And so you can go there, log on. If you have a library card, you can even drill in VPN to their servers. And that database now has all the companies in that area. So you can drill down, oh, I only want to work at $1 billion company or a small mom and pop, or maybe a high-tech company, or whatever company you want. Maybe you're agnostic on companies. So, maybe as an accountant or accounting person, you can work at any company. So, but now you can find companies in an area or industry that you are interested in, and you can drill down. And to learn about Reference USA, I would go to YouTube, type in Reference USA tutorial, and there's many people giving tutorials on how to use that tool. I could teach it, but hey, if you go to YouTube, you can look at it over and over and over again. But it's a great tool, and that would help you find. Also, by the way, if you are a marketing pup or a sales pup, they use this to source companies that might want to use their product. So in one aspect, in looking at companies, you're looking for a job. In other aspects, people source these companies, maybe they have a product or a service they want to sell, and now they want to get not to the hiring manager, but to the decision maker or the purchasing agent. So if that makes sense. So John, maybe next slide, please. Okay, preparing for interviews. LinkedIn is a great tool for that. So if you got an interview coming up, you might want to look up the company. That's always important to see maybe what their jobs are, what their products and services are. But more importantly, you can look up the people that you might be interviewing with. And this is kind of neat because then you can look at, hey, look at their recommendations, look at the jobs that they've had, the groups that they've joined, maybe something about them. So now when you go to the interview, you have information in your pocket that you can talk about. I've been to interviews where people have worked at the same company I have years ago. So that was a source of really a good conversation at the interview. And also what I like about this is you can perform also informational interviews. So if I know somebody, for my example, I gave Fernando working at Boeing. So if I know that Fernando's at Boeing, I can now have an informational interview with him that tells me, how do I fit? What's the culture, core values? How'd you get your job? Tell me about the company. And that way I learn more about the company before I have my interview. And that's important. And now here's know your value propositions. And I do harp on this a lot. I think this is so important. And so, and again, I know this kind of goes outside the realm of LinkedIn, but again, what my purpose in life is to help you get a job. And so value propositions, I've talked to so many recruiting agencies, I've talked to so many companies and so many experts across the nation, and value is key. And so when the interviewer or the hiring manager said, hey, I've got 20 people out in the lobby, you guys all have experience, 20 plus years, why should I hire you? You need to come up with, these are the values that I have. These are the reasons you want to hire me from a value standpoint. And then the learning section here on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, obviously now Microsoft has acquired LinkedIn for years now. But during that time, Microsoft also acquired a company called lynda.com. And lynda.com had all of these classes in it. And so many of my clients love this. So let's say that you have an interview on Monday. It's Friday now, and you have an interview coming up, and you're going to talk about skills. And so you can go to the learning section, type up those skills. Maybe you're an admin assistant and you go, oh, I need to bone up on pivot tables or Excel. Well, the learning session has all these classes on pivot tables, Excel, all things that you would want to know. And so you could take those classes. And now when you go to the interview, you're up on that subject. I did the same thing when I was an engineering manager. I went out to LinkedIn, looked up C++, which is a coding language, and it brought me, I hadn't done it for years, and I didn't want to do it, but they were going to ask me questions about it. So I took the class, it got put into my LinkedIn profile, and now I was up on it. So when they asked me questions, I would understand some of the language terminology that maybe I'd forgotten. So I have the premium account down here. Once you get that premium account, you get 30 days free from LinkedIn. That gives you most of the classes for free. You don't have to pay for them. Now, on the free side, if you don't have a premium account, some of the classes you can take are free, but most of them you have to pay. So I would join the premium account if I were you, and then you get 30 days free. Now, joining these premium accounts, if you're just new to LinkedIn, I would wait until you kind of got more experience on it, till you understand the product, the program, and then try it for 30 days to see if it would help you. So I love this section. Most of my clients love it also. So next page, John. Call to action. Hey, I'm about done. So at least room for questions here. My call to action is build and strengthen your profile. Put keywords that match your jobs. Make sure that those are peppered throughout your LinkedIn profile, and especially your skills section. I want you to meet people and increase your network. I want you over 500. The gentleman I talked to yesterday, I think had 1,200 in his network. I want you to create and search your target companies. Meet people in those companies and get them linked in with you. I want you to join associations and groups, because now you're with people, you can have discussions, you may even get a job from an association and group, who knows? I want you to research in preparation for your interviews. I want you to look up the people, the company on LinkedIn. I want you to look at their website, understand the company. If you're an executive, you should understand if they're a publicly owned company, where their stock is, how they're doing. Look at what they were doing for a year ago to now. And then I want you to talk to hiring managers, take friends or colleagues out to lunch. And then when you call them or you get introduced to somebody, have them pass your resume to the hiring manager. Now you notice I didn't say recruiter, I said hiring manager. So I want you to talk to the horse, whether that's a lady or a guy. I want you to talk to the horse, and that can only help you. Many jobs are not posted. That was the hidden job market. And again, here's that word again, value propositions. I know I harp on that, but I think it's what differentiates you from your competitors. And that you need to understand, because you're in competition for these jobs, and you need to know what value you have to be competitive and to be ahead of the herd, so to speak. And again, since 87% of you get jobs from networking, you need to network. So I think that's it. Next page is questions. I hope you enjoyed this. Please, if we can't get to your questions today, please give me a call. I gave you I think John is including in his distribution of the video, and he's got my slideshow in it, so you can see that. If you don't get it, you can always call me, email me, and I'll send it to you. And obviously, if you have questions that maybe you were shy, maybe you just didn't have time to ask, please give me a call. I help people every day of my life with questions. I have many clients. Right now, it seems to be a lot of clients right now. Back in 2007 and 8, when the bubble broke on real estate and a lot of jobs went away, that was a time. In fact, I lost a job at that time at a VRIP at Unisys. But now some companies are laying off, and I understand that. It's a little harder right now to get jobs. And I'll be honest with you, as you get older, it's harder. As your salary gets up, it's harder. And when your level gets up, vice presidents, senior vice presidents, senior directors, there's not as many of those at the companies. So sometimes those are a little harder. I love it when my clients get jobs right away. I've been blessed to have had those opportunities, but it's a little harder right now. It's a little longer. I have a saying on my back wall, and it's every mountaintop is within range if you keep climbing. And therefore, if you're in job search, you need to persevere. You need to keep the pressure up. You need to treat it like it is a job. So thank you again, and be glad to answer any questions. Christy or Cindy or John. I can't hear you, Christy.
We can't hear you, Christy.
Muted now.
Yeah, it's not working.
Now we can hear you now.
Oh, you can? Okay, great. So we have time for maybe one question, one or two.
One or two.
Russ, go for it.
Did you have your contact info in the chat, or was it?
Yes, no, it's on the presentation. We got it. You'll
on the
get it.
presentation? Cool. Awesome. Look forward to chatting. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure, feel free to give me a call. I'm here to help people. It's my passion, and I love it, to tell you the truth. This is what I'm here
We
for.
can tell, Ted. We can tell. So who else has a question?
Hi, Christy. I actually have a question.
Great.
Ted, thanks for the presentation. Really helpful. Just really one question. One thing I found from a few years ago when I was looking, when I reach out to contacts that may know somebody at the company, I'm getting a lot more, I don't know how I know that person, So it's almost like LinkedIn's gotten diluted somewhat, because now we accept everybody, right? And it's like, that impact of, I used to work with John, and let me go ahead and reach out to him. It seems to me in this latest search, it's been diluted. I just wanted to get your thought on that.
It's sure. Obviously, years ago, that action had a lot more response from people, but I still think it's valuable. And the reason being is that even maybe I don't know the person, you're still linked in with them. And so it's only an introduction. Is this Russ I'm talking to?
Joe.
Russ Kinney? Yeah.
It's Joe Blanding.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I saw Russ's picture up here. I thought he was talking. But you don't have to know the person really well. You're just wanting to get an introduction into the company. So you don't have to be best friends. Just being connected on LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to say, hey, we're connected. Can you introduce me to Bob or Tom at Northrop Grumman or wherever? And so that triangle gives you precedence now to be able to talk to a person at a company that you wouldn't normally get a chance to. So I still think it's,
Ted, here's the suggestion for that, because I agree with Joe. There's people that I connected with at the beginning of LinkedIn that I haven't talked to in probably 15, maybe 20 years.
Right.
And so when you think about that, it's like, well, I'm happy to reach out, but I haven't connected with that person for over 10 years. The other thing is what I do frequently is offer suggestions. So if you're looking to get into this company, then what I can do is potentially introduce you to somebody else at the company that maybe I know better, or somebody who does have a connection at that company. So it's really asking more. It's like, I'm looking for a job at that company. I see you're connected. Or if there's another suggestion that you have, because then what I do is, and I think other people have done this as well, is I look at my second degree to that company and see how else I might be able to loop you in, because we're all wired to help each other, right?
Right.
So wouldn't that be wonderful if we could do it that way? So a suggestion, but we are out of time. Ted, thank you so much for this. We could probably talk about LinkedIn every week and not get enough information.
Well, I could talk it for all day. I'm sorry if I talk too fast.
No, you did a fantastic job. It has been absolutely phenomenal. And we want you back. So please, please, please come back. Thank you all. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you, I think it's next week, with the Chat GPT person. Yep. Right?
Well, thank you, Christy.
Bye,
thanks,
everyone.
Cindy, John.
Bye, Ted.
Bye, Ted.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, everyone.
You're on.